Hey everybody, do me a favor. Be sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be sure to like the video. I really appreciate all the support to all of you who have done that so far. Thanks. Hey everybody, so I'm back for the last review of season 8. Real Housewives of Potomac, season 8, episode 21, reunion part 3. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. I'm not only am I glad this season is over, if I'm being honest, this whole reunion was a bunch of build up to a bunch of nothing. It was. It was. All right. Nevertheless, we're gonna start with Gordon and Mia. Now, this is the one that I didn't see coming. So honestly, I thought Gordon was gonna say some stuff about their marriage, and her cheating and stuff. But he tells us that he has bipolar one disorder. Bipolar disorder, because I know a few people who have struggled with it. Um, it's very, very difficult. And yes, it is a mental illness, and the manic behavior and the irritability and the aggressive behavior is difficult, and it can be difficult to diagnose because you need that person to admit that it's a problem. And it's hard sh- when you shift into those gears. And the thing is, particularly with a lot of people, the light is funny, but whatever. Particularly with these kind of things, when you're high functioning, like Gordon seemed to have been as a businessman, he still was making a lot of money. And you just think, okay, well, yeah, I'm successful. Other people simply don't understand what it takes to get to where I'm at. So, this is okay. I'm messing with this camera. I'm trying. All right. I'm glad him and his family have reconciled and dropped those lawsuits. I'm really glad to hear that. And I was even happier to hear that he checked himself in to the hospital to get the kind of help that he needed because it got so bad, which tells me that he has learned when he's having those episodes and just feeling himself get angry. No, you can't always see it coming, but he knows that when he's there, he needs help. I honestly did not suspect that, but I do think it takes a lot of courage to admit a mental illness because it's very personal. And it's not for you to tell everybody. This is bothering me just a little bit. Sorry, I just had a really long day and I just didn't want a whole lot of light in my face, so I apologize. Um, and the courage to admit a mental illness, especially as you're still working through it, because that doesn't happen. It's not just medication. Like Andy asked, well, can you have some medication to level it out? Yeah, but that doesn't fit. You have to still do psychotherapy and things like that. Um, and at an older age, no less. All right, so good for Mia for still supporting him through the mental illness because at the end of the day, they still have kids together and it's been diagnosed so they can understand it better. And she wants him to be well for them, and I think that's good, and I think I can leave it there. All right, so Wendy and Aneka, they bring up this Osu stuff because let's just be real, everybody, there was nothing new revealed on this reunion, and quite frankly, everybody who either thinks they're in support of Mia or Naneka have already made up their minds, and they didn't tell us nothing new. All right, so Andy asked Wendy to explain the Osu stuff, and she turns to Ashley and says, Ashley, since you brought it up, you explain it. Crickets. Naneka tries to jump in, and Wendy cuts her off and says, let Ashley explain it because she brought it up. Ashley couldn't. And I'm glad Wendy did do that because you know what? Ashley is the person causing the most trouble and creating that shit. Now, then Ashley started saying, well, in my defense, she never once said, I didn't say you were Osu. I read it. She started talking a bunch of bullshit. She's a liar. She's a messy bitch. I'm over it. And just because you haven't been in a position where somebody has thrown hands, but you have antagonized somebody to throw hands, like you did with Candace in her house, like you have done 1,000 times going at people, does not mean that you are somehow better or higher up. So now, is it just me or was Naneka giving Deshaun Snow season 1 Real Housewives of Atlanta tease? Okay, because I think you need to go to, yeah. You've been sitting like a statue. Wendy is boring as far as I'm concerned. But Naneka, you still didn't give us anything other than this stuff with Wendy, even though you and Wendy weren't talking. Like, it's just a mess. I'm still not buying what Wendy is selling. all of this shit about how Nneka said she was Osu and therefore that's why she didn't like her. Nneka pointed out she never said she was Osu that entire season, but Ashley did. And she was like, you didn't have any of that smoke for Ashley that you had for me. Now we got to pause there because that's very true. So like I said, while Wendy's talking about all this colorism shit and this is why they get treated this, that, and the other, you could have checked Ashley too. Because there were multiple times throughout that season you should have sat down and addressed her. Okay? And honestly, did y'all see Ashley's face when Nneka said that? I don't think she expected that. I think she expected Nneka just to be happy. Excuse me. And then, that Ashley just owned up to the fact that, oh, Nneka didn't say it. That ain't good enough. So, shout out to Nneka on that one. Gotcha. Anyway, so then they asked if the two can be friends. Nneka was shaking her head like, no. Wendy keeps with this bullshit about how they can coexist. Is that why you got up and left her at the restaurant? Is that why you had to get into it with her at pickleball? And then when you had a chance to take somebody aside, you chose Mia after calling her slow and dumb and stupid? Is that why you went on a trip and tried to ignore her and still ice her out despite the fact that she was there? Girl, bye. Cut it out. That is not coexisting. Cut it out. You lying. Your mama did say those things and did those things. And you, ma'am, allow them to. And you keep trying to play this game. Like, what did I do to you? You put the battery in your mama and your sister's back and caused all that shit, and Nneka knows it. And somehow you think by sitting there, as you and Nneka are going back and forth about the order of events, that somehow you, by keeping it together, it makes it seem like you're in the right. And Nneka getting upset at how she's being perceived makes her in the wrong. No, I'm not here for that bullshit. No, she's upset because you lie in her fucking face, and that pisses people off. Especially when you've been done wrong. So you can miss me with that. And to Nneka's point, you didn't have that smoke for Ashley. And you took it out on Nneka because you wanted to be the only Nigerian on this show. You wanted to be able to dominate whatever narrative we got out of Nigerian exceptionalism. And I'm not here for it. All right, next. Anyway, so they bring out Kierna. Okay, I try to pronounce her whole name because I know what it is to have a name that people kind of fuck up, basically. I like Kierna. I really do. I hope we see her again. That jewelry, though, that Chanel stuff, I only knew it was Chanel because of them 2 C's or whatever. Looked like stuff from the Gladiator set. Like stuff that was just left over and, you know, you get to take it home. But speaking of which, speaking of Gladiator and the next one, am I the only one that saw how fine Denzel is looking out here at 70? I said, baby. He got his nerve being that fine. I said, favor ain't fair. Denzel, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for being that fine at 70. I ain't mad. Anyway, they talk about how Wendy and Kierna knew each other for about 5 years before this. And, okay, we talking about knowing each other. I'm sure they did know of each other, see each other at different events. And Wendy's trying to act like, you know, they go back. Now, my thing is, when Nneka brought that up and said, you know, they had talked or whatever back and forth with each other, I didn't know her. It's clear. I don't feel like her and Kierna rock like that either. But see, you didn't do that to her. Right. Just sit there and think about that. But viewers had the same question I did, which was, how in the hell did y'all leave Kierna out like that over and over and over again? So Candace and Wendy agreed that Giselle only went to check on Kierna to make them look like bad friends. And I don't want to defend Giselle. And so I won't. But in fairness, based on what we saw, Giselle didn't find out that nobody had checked on Kierna until she went to check on her. And honestly, we know Giselle and her messy ass would have asked a whole lot more questions and tried to get it started if she hadn't. Now, and I didn't think in that moment Giselle put a lot of sauce on it like she does with other stuff. And honestly, I think she just checked her. I think she accidentally did something nice. But Giselle's character Candace and Wendy, and even her behavior, regardless, lends itself to that. So I'm not going to defend it. Then we start talking about Wendy's ridiculous job choices and inconsistent career choices, and now she's saying she thinks it's going to be her last semester teaching just because she's missed a lot of moments. Her youngest child is going to kindergarten, and her oldest child is going to middle school. Wendy, I call bullshit. Because the job that you are choosing not to go back to, let's keep it real, is your bread and butter for the most part. Everything else, we know your book wasn't selling like that. We know your candles aren't selling like that. Which is why so many viewer questions are asking, like, what's going on with this? And I told y'all before, I said she's an assistant professor, which it may, and she probably was tenure track, but they probably decided not to give her tenure, which is like where you have job protection, so on and so forth, because the book you publish is supposed to be within the framework of your dissertation, and certainly in the discipline that you have a job. So if it's education, it should be published, just expanding on your dissertation. About, I don't know if it's philosophy of education, literacy, whatever it is. That's the book you're supposed to produce. Instead, she tried to write one that would sell quickly, even though it had cheap material, and it does not count in the tenure process. And I think she's trying to get ahead of the fact that she wasn't going to be given tenure, and they were going to let her go. Because this is probably the end of her 6-7 year contract, like most of them are, 6 to 8 years. And so now, the fake tears. I missed a lot. Girl, you had to go to work. Them extra jobs you didn't have to do. So I'm supposed to believe Eddie is an attorney, and he didn't miss any of these things. Like, it just seemed, I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on it. So we don't care. Apparently, we needed to ask Wendy about Happy Eddie's weed business success, because they couldn't do that when Eddie was out there. Apparently, he did a Black History Month pop-up tour with his weed business. I said, child, I don't want to hear anything else. I can't. And Wendy, that wet wig looks a goddamn mess. Is it me, or is it that Naneka does not seem bothered by Wendy? She's able to look at her when she's talking and just kind of like do whatever, and can smile and stuff and nod her head. And Wendy is passive aggressively fuming every time Naneka speaks. That's how you know Wendy's in the wrong. Wendy's full of shit. I'm telling y'all. All right, then we get to this G&A fashion line. Okay, that nobody's gonna buy anything from. Nobody with any sense. And the whole fight that broke out. Giselle talking about how she doesn't want G&A associated with the brawl. Then blame your business partner, you dumb bitch, who invited a bunch of bullshit with the expectation of trying to get everything started. So it would be a shit show. That's why she invited that ugly girl. Okay, so the fight. Apparently somebody leaked the footage to that ridiculous blog that has its own show that I don't even understand why it still exists. Anyway, so Kierna got a drink thrown on her by Deborah. And she threw punches. She was like, my instinct was to defend myself. Of course it was. Because at that point, she had been assaulted. And she had. And Deborah, threw a glass on her, slashed her face. She had to get stitches and everything. Giselle blames everybody but Ashley. She blames Candace. She blames Wendy, whose name she eventually takes back. She takes Kierna. She blames Kierna. And not Ashley for bringing Deborah in that situation. Am I the only one who has noticed how bitter, angry, and mean not only does Giselle act, but even looks? Like, she can't even bring herself to be a halfway decent person, to like smile. Like, it's consuming her. And what we are seeing is karma in real time. Like, she can't even bring herself to let up a little bit. Because she knows if she lets up a little bit, it's like a Jenga piece. Every part of who she is going to fall apart. And the gag is it already has. Anyway, when Giselle started blaming everybody but Ashley, I said, get the fuck out of here. I don't care what Candace called Deborah. Nothing she said was that deep. Deborah walked up to her and asked her, "Do you have something to say to me?" No, bitch, she already said it in the confessional where she was paid to say it. Okay? Okay. Mia let us know that honestly, Deborah was already on a rampage that night. And I know what it is to see somebody who kind of starts something and you try to calm them down, and next thing you know, they in somebody else's face starting shit. Um, and she was like, so I think honestly, because she was trying to address me about something I said about her being the four, and Mia was like, I just kind of fixed it. Was like, no, what are you talking about? All of us are black queens, this and the other. And she was like, I think if I wouldn't have said it like that, she would have done it. And I think that Mia had a point when she said to Candace, sometimes you have to stop and realize you have more to lose than somebody like Deborah. The problem is it came out of Mia's mouth, and we know Mia is dumb, and Mia forgets what she says and just goes on another rampage of foolishness and lying. And so you can't take her seriously for too long. And let's not act like you didn't throw water in Wendy's face at a public restaurant, that you didn't throw salad at Candace because you didn't like what she said about your mother. I'm not saying she didn't deserve it, but I'm saying you're not the person to now have the moral barometer. You can't. Was there anywhere else to go? At the point in which Deborah approached Candace, she's this close to her face, as Candace says. Nobody disagreed with that. Nobody that was there said that didn't happen. And Candace told her, no, I don't have anything to say to you. And she continues to try to get Candace into an argument. Where did y'all expect that to go? And no, I don't think, despite how I feel about the fact that I think Candace is full of shit with the Monique shit, I don't think this is comparable. I don't. I think Deborah started with her. Deborah was talking shit about her husband. She has every right to not like her, to not want to fuck with her. And Candace, it sounds like, had no intention of giving her any time. Certainly not on camera or recording. She didn't want any of it. And, like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? I think to say, oh, your words, you went too low. Ashley, you go low all the time. You've just been lucky nobody whooped your ass. In the same way, Giselle is lucky nobody fucked her up. Because honestly, Monique should have fucked Giselle up. Now, that would have been the fight. But to kind of throw it back in Candace's face and say her words cut too deep, no. No, we know what Deborah showed up to do. And Ashley knew what Deborah would do. So Kiana said that Ashley basically apologizes for what happened to her. And Kiana was like, yeah, well, Ashley is the queen of aftermath apologies. Which is true. She waits until it's done and then goes, oh, I'm sorry. And then somehow, if you don't accept it, then something's wrong with you. Fuck you. Anyway, Ashley is messy and has a track record of doing that shit. Fuck her. I honestly, in this situation, felt the worst for Kiana. I think she took the greatest hit. Physically, metaphorically, and as far as her reputation. And I know when she was like, and I was embarrassed of how, like, all the things that go through your body when you are being attacked, and to ask somebody to think about, oh, your reputation, oh, your businesses, all this stuff all the time. At that point, she was right. She was assaulted. Period. None of that would have happened had Deborah gotten the fuck out of there. Had Ashley not invited her to her business event, even though ain't nobody gonna buy them raggedy ass clothes, no damn way. Anyway, and this did not help Giselle. It did not help. So Giselle said she wasn't, when Kiana was like, everybody reached out to her, she got really emotional when she talked about Karen. She was like, nobody else was there. She said, in most cases, my mother would have been, but my mother was not at the event to be there. And I could tell that really, she was really grateful for that. And she said, well, Giselle, you didn't reach out to me, which I thought was weird. And Giselle basically was like, well, if I'm being honest, my dad was having brain cancer. You weren't in my thoughts. See, that's what I'm talking about. Giselle, you didn't you didn't even have to go that low. You could have said my father was having brain surgery. I just really didn't, I couldn't do anything else but be there for him. But see, you have to go low and nasty, which honestly goes back to where I tried to give you just a bit of space when Candace and Wendy said no, she just did that to make us look like bad friends. Now, yeah. So I saw today that Candace is pregnant and having a baby. I figured Because if you are trying to have a baby, you do not need to be on this reality show under that stress with a bitch like Giselle who is mad that you have the life that she does not. Children and a husband, the life that she felt like she deserved. Because she would do everything in her power to make it miserable. And honestly, the way these bitches act, you can't really even have a show at this point. Wendy not talking to Naneka. She don't fuck with Giselle. Giselle don't fuck with Wendy. She don't fuck with Candace. Um, I just think her and Ashley are playing. Like they need to recast because the chemistry, everything is so polarized and fractured. We can see it. They don't even talk to each other. It's you can't have a show like that. You can't. Then we get to Wendy and Naneka's back and forth. Wendy doesn't take responsibility for anything. Naneka does. All she wants is some acknowledgement. But see, Wendy knows she's got to stick with this lie because she wants to convince the rest of us that she didn't do what I know she did. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great week. I will talk to y'all soon.